In the bustling city of Ryazan, Russia, in 1849, a curious mind was born. That mind belonged to Ivan Pavlov, a man who would grow to make significant contributions to the field of psychology. Pavlov, a physiologist by training, spent years studying the digestive systems of dogs, but it was a simple observation that led him to discover a fundamental principle of learning. This principle, known as classical conditioning, would change the way we understand how animals, including humans, learn. So what exactly happened in Pavlov's laboratory? Picture a dog. This dog naturally drools when food is presented. In the world of psychology, this drooling is known as an unconditioned response, a natural automatic reaction to food, which is an unconditioned stimulus. Nothing surprising here, right? Pavlov, however, noticed something peculiar. The dogs in his lab began to drool, not just when food was presented, but also when they heard the footsteps of the assistant who brought the food. In the dogs' minds, the assistant's footsteps had become a signal that food was coming. Intrigued, Pavlov decided to conduct an experiment. He rang a bell each time before the dogs were fed. After several repetitions, the dogs began to associate the sound of the bell with food. In essence, they learned to expect food whenever they heard the bell. So the dogs began to drool at the sound of the bell, even when no food was presented. This drooling in response to the bell is what Pavlov called a conditioned response. The bell, initially a neutral stimulus, had become a conditioned stimulus. This process, where a neutral stimulus becomes associated with an unconditioned stimulus to produce a conditioned response, is what we now refer to as classical conditioning. The beauty of this concept is that it can explain a wide range of learned behaviors, from why we feel hungry when we see our favorite restaurant's logo, to why we feel scared when we see a spider. But Pavlov's dogs are just one part of the story. Fast forward a few decades and we meet B.F. Skinner, who introduced the concept of operant conditioning. While classical conditioning involves learning through association, operant conditioning involves learning from the consequences of our behavior. If a behavior leads to a reward, we're more likely to repeat it. If it leads to a punishment, we're more likely to avoid it. So, to wrap things up, Pavlov and his dogs helped us understand classical conditioning, learning through association. Skinner, on the other hand, taught us about operant conditioning, learning from the consequences of our actions. Both of these concepts are fundamental to how we as humans learn and behave, and it all started with a curious mind observing the world around him.